I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's very complicated. That's why I pay 13% of my income in the state every year to people who I assumed were working on things like this. We have a new thing in LA called follow home robberies, where gang members stake out nice restaurants and then follow home the people who leave in expensive cars and force their way into their houses. That's why Paris Hilton now drives a 2009 PT Cruiser and eats a cigar.
Bill Maher is back in attack mode, taking sharp shots at Gavin Newsom and blaming his style of leadership for California falling apart. This time, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass also gets caught in the blast. Maher isn't just venting or ranting, he's breaking things down piece by piece, pointing at policies and political showmanship that have turned the Golden State into a cautionary tale. It's harsh, it's darkly funny, and he shows no mercy. Buckle up, hit subscribe, and let's jump straight in with no filters and no apologies.
The LA City Council voted that every homeless tent had to be removed from dozens of locations, yet every freeway overpass still looks like history's saddest Coachella. The homeless are both preyed upon and, frankly, a concern that they will do God knows what. You go out for a run in your neighborhood and you have to wonder whether that guy eyeing you on the corner is going to be this guy or this guy.
Maher starts by going straight for the growing homelessness crisis that's gripping Los Angeles and many other major California cities. He points out a glaring contradiction. City councils, including Los Angeles, have approved plans to clear homeless encampments from public streets. Yet somehow things keep getting worse. Tents vanish from one block only to reappear somewhere else. Maher asks a simple but brutal question. If these policies are working, why do the numbers keep climbing? That's where Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass come into focus. Critics say Newsom's homelessness strategy relies heavily on huge spending, catchy phrases, and non-stop press conferences, but delivers very little real progress. Billions of dollars have been poured into programs with weak oversight, while everyday Californians watch their neighborhoods decline. Maher's frustration mirrors what many residents feel, torn between compassion and chaos. To him, good intentions don't matter when conditions keep getting worse and leaders avoid responsibility instead of fixing the problem.
A day doesn't go by where you can't find video of the latest smash and grab robbery, where thieves in broad daylight just smash the front windows of ritzy stores and take all the jewelry they can carry. They went to Jared.
Maher then moves beyond homelessness and targets another growing crisis: rising crime and widespread theft across California's biggest cities. Critics argue this didn't happen overnight and that recent policy choices helped push things in this direction. Maher says the state now sends a message that feels soft on crime, putting offenders' comfort ahead of public safety. Shoplifters walk out of stores carrying armloads of merchandise, confident that consequences will be minimal. Repeat offenders cycle through the system with little more than symbolic punishment. Maher mocks the idea that lighter penalties reduce crime, pointing out they seem to have encouraged it instead. Stores are shutting down, neighborhoods feel unsafe, and law-abiding residents end up paying the price. In Maher's view, compassion without enforcement creates a system where disorder grows fast. When leaders confuse leniency with justice and refuse to face reality, order breaks down quickly.
And when did they legalize shoplifting? There used to be shame in shoplifting, or at least some skill. Now criminals just brazenly walk out of Walgreens, again in broad daylight, with a trash bag full of aisle 3, while the security guard just watches. They have to keep even the most mundane products all caged up. CVS isn't a store, it's a zoo for teeth whitening strips.
Maher traces much of this shift back to California's decision to downgrade thefts involving items under $1,000 from felonies to misdemeanors. The goal was to reduce prison overcrowding and focus on violent crime, but Maher says the consequences have been impossible to miss. Criminals quickly realized the penalties were light and began exploiting the system, openly stealing from large retailers without fear. Videos of bold shoplifting spread online, reinforcing the idea that enforcement had been stripped away. Retailers responded by locking down stores, placing everyday items like toothpaste, detergent, and even food behind glass. Regular shoppers now have to press buttons and wait just to buy basic necessities. Maher says this isn't smart reform. It's proof of a failed policy where honest citizens are inconvenienced while repeat offenders operate almost freely.
San Francisco in the last few years has seen 11 Walgreens and 6 CVS stores just give up and close because that town seems simply beyond law, which is heartbreaking because I, like so many people, love that city, and I don't think it's corny to admit, yes, I left my heart in San Francisco. Also my wallet and iPhone.
Maher doesn't stop there. He also calls out the everyday fear Californians now feel about their cars and personal belongings. He describes a scene many people know too well. You leave your car for a short time, come back, and whatever was inside is gone. Maher points out this wasn't always normal, but in recent years, car thefts and smash and grab break-ins have exploded. Los Angeles has recorded tens of thousands of vehicle thefts and car burglaries every year, earning a reputation as a hotspot for these crimes. San Francisco, even with recent reports showing improvement, spent years known for non-stop car break-ins that made residents anxious. Maher brings up these examples to show how many Californians feel trapped, stuck between rising crime and weak, out-of-touch responses from state and local leaders.
Bay Area citizens have been complaining in recent years about all the human feces in the streets, but now the streets are full of something else. They call it San Francisco snow. It's glass. Piles and piles of shattered glass everywhere from car windows being smashed. So routine to have this happen to any parked car, people purposefully leave the windows down and the glove compartment open so thieves can see there's nothing of value, or they leave a note on the car politely assuring the thief that there's nothing worth stealing and please don't break the windows.
This has become daily life in parts of the Bay Area where things are so bad that some drivers now leave handwritten notes telling thieves there's nothing inside worth stealing. It's a desperate attempt to save their windows. Maher says this isn't clever problem solving. It's pure frustration spilling over. Law-abiding people are being forced to adapt to crime instead of expecting government protection. In some neighborhoods, drivers even leave their windows slightly open, not because they're careless, but because they're exhausted. They're tired of replacing broken glass and paying for policies they didn't choose. Maher argues this is what happens when leadership loses touch with reality and passes laws without thinking through real-world results. When people stop feeling protected, trust in institutions fades and survival strategies take over. At that point, the system looks strained, reactive, and overwhelmed.
What is so disturbing here is not just that there's more crime and mayhem, it's the audacity of it all. Like there's no lines anymore that can't be crossed. Like don't walk on a stage during a live show. Or don't Mike Tyson.
Maher warns California may be approaching a dangerous tipping point, a moment when people believe there are no real boundaries anymore because consequences feel weak or non-existent. When laws aren't enforced, behavior changes fast. Acts that once seemed shocking now happen openly, in daylight, often caught on video with little fear of punishment. For regular Californians, this creates anger and helplessness. They follow the rules, pay taxes, and obey the law, yet they're the ones inconvenienced and put at risk. Meanwhile, those pushing limits feel empowered. Maher says this isn't a moral failure of the public, it's a leadership failure. When government signals that enforcement is optional, respect for the law erodes. And once that happens, restoring order becomes much harder than stopping the decline early.
It's also, yes, undeniably true that LA is built in a stupid place to build a city. But when it's not on fire, it's really quite lovely. And it's my home. And stupid as its origin may be, it's not going anywhere. Axios ran a story on how getting the water out of the hydrants in Pacific Palisades was more complicated than it seems. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's very complicated. That's why I pay 13% of my income in the state every year to people who I assumed were working on things like this.
Maher also criticizes the huge gap between what Californians pay and what they get in return. California has some of the highest taxes in the country, yet Maher says the results are disappointing. With so much money flowing into state budgets, basic services should work smoothly. Too often, they don't. He points to the state's ongoing wildfire disasters as a clear example. Year after year, fires tear through well-known and populated areas while residents watch the same mistakes repeat. Slow responses, poor preparation, and action taken only after devastation hits. For Maher, this goes beyond natural disasters. It's mismanagement. He questions how a state swimming in tax dollars can still seem so unprepared, leaving taxpayers feeling like they're funding a system that fails when it matters most.
When asked why so many of the hydrants in the Palisades ran out of water, Governor Newsom said the local folks are trying to figure that out. Yeah, you got to do that before the fire. At least in the Palisades, the hydrants were still there. 300 other ones around the city are just gone, stolen for parts. One of the 3 reservoirs for the Palisades is offline at the one time of year when it was most needed. LA's Mayor Karen Bass, the Nero of American politics, was fiddling in Ghana while the city burned and later placed the blame on 8 months of negligible rain and winds that have not been seen in LA in at least 14 years. Yeah, that's not that long a time. Maybe look in the history books to see how our ancestors handled it back in 2011.
What really pushes Maher, along with many Californians, over the edge is the never-ending wildfire crisis. Every year, massive fires destroy homes, jobs, and entire communities. And every year, Maher says you'd expect leaders like Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass to have learned something and taken real steps to prevent the next disaster. Instead, the same cycle repeats. Warnings are ignored, preparation falls short, and explanations come only after the damage is done. Maher's anger isn't directed at nature. It's aimed at leadership that refuses to adapt. Controlled burns, forest management, and infrastructure upgrades are discussed after every fire, yet little changes before the next one. At this point, Maher says it wouldn't be shocking if another major fire breaks out and officials offer the same recycled excuses. For residents, that cycle is exhausting, expensive, and dangerously familiar. Maher's critique of California is relentless and heated, and he believes it's justified. From Los Angeles streets to Bay Area neighborhoods, Californians face problems that seem to grow every year. Homelessness keeps spiraling, crime and theft rise under weak enforcement. People adapt to daily insecurity, and wildfires remain an annual threat. Maher's point is blunt. Californians pay top-tier taxes, but receive a state that too often fails to protect them. The anger and exhaustion are real, and Maher captures it clearly, sharp, unapologetic, and impossible to ignore. And that brings us to the end of today's video. If you liked it, hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.